Greetings, everyone. It's Glenn Kellaway coming to you from the basement on a Saturday afternoon. I decided to jump on, see if anybody's around that wants to talk. I am in the mood. Just let me get my channel set up here. Sorry. Hope somebody's out there that wants to talk for the afternoon or an hour or something anyway. I emailed a couple of people to see if they're interested in coming on. If no one comes around, then we'll just shut her down. There we go. Oh, I got one person, it says in here. Let's see who's here watching with me. Who knows, even if my partners in crime are out there and they want to hop on with me. Let's see who shows up. Nothing much going on. It's really cold outside. Football doesn't start until 4:30. There's a hockey game on at 2. It's a sports day. Cardboard guy. How's it going? I got nothing, guys. I'm just on here. I've got homework to do. Stop distracting me. That's great. Yeah, I don't even know what there is to talk about other than I'm bored and I just felt like doing something. And I was trying to come up with a good video idea and record a video, and I nothing. I got nothing. So this is all I had. Thanks for joining me, guys. Any of you guys into Paul Weller? I can't remember which one of the my viewers commented on one of my videos when I did my video, I think on the police or something like that, and the Kinks maybe. And somebody said, I really need to check out Paul Weller. And Friday, we're doing the CD exchange on Rich's channel. And coincidentally, Larry Graves gives me a Paul Weller CD to listen to. So long distance. Did you go for a concert? Did you go for a concert? I didn't go anywhere. I'm not sure. I haven't been to a concert for a while. Last one was Jack White last summer in Toronto. So I'd love to go to one. Man, be good. Yeah. So anyway, if any of you guys into Paul Weller, recommend me some stuff. Give me some background on this guy. I don't know. I think he was with the Jam or something, and I've never heard one song by the Jam or Paul Weller ever. Yeah, so I'm kind of interested. I'm going to check some stuff out on Spotify and hope I like it, and then I'll go buy something. The longest you've traveled to get to a concert, I think, was his question. Oh, thank you. Wow. The longest I went to actually go to a concert, like I've been to Orlando to visit my daughters, which is, 1,300 miles, but the intent wasn't to go to a concert. So to actually drive to a concert and plan a vacation around a concert, we drove to Lake Winnipesaukee, which I believe is in New Hampshire. It was a long frickin' drive. And we went to see Bela Fleck and the Flecktones and Bruce Hornsby at this amphitheater. And it was very cool. So that's probably the longest I've driven. I've driven to Cleveland for a concert, which is 5 hours away. We went to the border of South Carolina and North Carolina, which is a good 12, 13 hours. We drove to see Bela Fleck and the Flecktones at the thing called the Horde Festival. And that my wife and I did that in the 90s. That was, and we just went for the weekend. And who else was there? There was a band called the Spin Doctors. Any remember those guys? And Blues Traveler and Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. I can't remember. That's the longest we've probably driven, 13 hours. I would go with Paul Weller, Wildwood. Stanley Road was the one that Larry suggested to me, so I have to listen to that one for next Friday to do a review on it. So if anybody's interested in my reviews, go to Rich Strickler's channel next week and or the week after. My experience with Paul says Wildwood is an awesome entry point, Glenn. Key track is the title track. Also hung up is just goddamn amazing. Oh, that's very cool. Thank you. I knew there was some fans out there, and I just never paid any attention. St. Louis to Chicago from Aurelian. Bela Fleck is amazing. Thank you. He is amazing. One of my musical heroes who I've gotten to meet on a few occasions. And he's not only an incredible musician, but an incredible human being too. Really nice guy. St. Louis to Chicago. That's not that far, I don't think. Is it? I've never driven from St. Louis to Chicago, but I'm thinking that's got to be within a 3-4 hour drive. Maybe wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, there's 8 people out there who are just as bored as me on a Saturday afternoon. That's pretty cool. Very, very little experience with Paul post 1997 soul, though, but his fans tend to be hardcore. 300-ish miles. Yeah, so 60 miles an hour, 5 hours, 6 hours with a pee break. Hi, Gene. How are you? Well, you're up early this morning. Isn't it 3 hours difference? Well, I guess not that early, mid-morning. Get your whole day ahead of you. I'm at work on a ladder. Be careful. I have a bad history with ladders. I fell off a ladder putting up Christmas lights, fell onto a cement porch or patio or entryway of my house, landed on my elbow, took 17 stitches in my elbow. They had to, and most of the stitches were inside. The cut was so deep. And my back and my rear end was black as my jacket I'm wearing here. So be careful. 9:40 a.m. and Gene's working. Oh my Lord. 9:40 a.m. I was laying on my couch watching a James Bond movie I was watching. Which channel? One channel had all the James Bond movies, and I PVR'd them all. I'm kind of going. I love James Bond. I was going through all the old ones, and I just watched. I've watched From Russia with Love, Doctor No. I just watched Thunderball. I skipped Goldfinger because I've seen it 100 times, and it's my favorite James Bond movie. Yeah, that's it's not good. I'm not good on ladders. I don't like them. And then I was up on a ladder fixing my dryer vent last year. My neighbor's out watching me, and I was losing weight, and I was wearing a pair of shorts that were too loose on me, and I reached up to this, and my shorts fell down. I was standing there in my boxers with my shorts down to my knees. My neighbor got a kick out of that. Waiting for the mail. Roger Waters, 45. 45 RPM of Amused to Death. Interesting. Oh, Jeff Beck is on that album. Wow, that was just a shocker. Thunderball is kind of long, but good too. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I wouldn't rank it in my top. Goldfinger's my number one. I really like From Russia with Love and Dr. No because they were just developing the character and everything. They're kind of cool. And I'll tell you, I have a big love for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, George Lazenby, his only performance with James Bond. I really like that. Oh, man. Yeah. Wow. So that's pretty cool, the Roger Waters. Is that just coming out, Charlie? So sad about Jeff Beck. Man. I saw Jeff Beck in 1968 because one of my favorite albums is the Truth album with Rod Stewart, Ron Wood, Nicky Hopkins, I think, and Jeff Beck. I saw that tour at a place called the Electric Circus in Toronto. I think it cost me like $4 or $5 to go there, and it was a really small venue. It was almost like going to a club and seeing these guys play. It was really cool. And then I saw him again in the 90s in a big stadium with Stevie Ray Vaughan. and Jeff Healey, which was very cool. Google says from St. Louis to Chicago with light traffic, 4 hours, 28 minutes. I do the trip to Orlando, which is about 21 hours drive. And I do it in 2 days. We do 12 hours a day with stops. It's 12 hours a day. That's when I get to see my buddy Sam. Halfway down, we stop in Roanoke, which is exactly at the halfway point. I really needs to see on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Always heard it was good. Never seen Casino Royales either. Well, the Casino Royale with the newest James Bond. Can't remember what his name was. I really liked him. He just quit doing them. Man. Anyway, that Casino Royale is really good. The other Casino Royale that they made a farce of with Peter Sellers and everything is just one of the worst movies ever made. North K Art. My internet and phone has been down a few days. Jeff Beck, the soundtrack of my life. Sad. Sad I never see him, though. Yeah, I was just saying I got to see him twice. So, hey, Glenn, I'm live also. Can I come up? Yes, you can. Copy. Please, John. That would be awesome. I would be honored. That'd be very cool. Art, your internet's been down. That sucks. There's an expanded version of Truth. Oh, interesting. I have an audio fidelity audio file SACD of it that sounds really good, but there's no extra tracks on it. That would be it'd be interesting to hear some extra tracks. To me, that is the father of Led Zeppelin, that album. It was a year before Led Zeppelin 1 came out. If you think about it, Beck did Beck's Bolero. Jimmy Page did Bolero during How Many More Times, the last track on Led Zeppelin 1. They did You Shook Me, and then Zeppelin did You Shook Me. I think Jeff Beck was I think Jimmy and Jeff were really on the same page, and I even think Jimmy Page played on that Jeff Beck album. But they both have the same mindset, and they both knew where things were going, and Jimmy just did it better in hindsight. But love that Truth album. I don't see my friend John. Hopefully he's coming up. Love to talk to him. John lives in Florida, and I don't know when my next trip to Florida is. There's things up in the air right now. I'm expecting our first grandchild any day. Yesterday was my daughter's due date, and she went to see her midwife or wherever, and they said, "Nah, you don't look like you're quite ready yet." So it might be any time between now and the 25th of January. So when that comes up, that's going to be huge. So that's why we decided not to go to Florida this year. My daughter, who lives just an hour away from us, is expecting. So, Johnny, you coming up, buddy? Maybe he's shutting down his live feed. Yeah. Anybody excited about any new releases coming out? I am excited for this one. I think this is a great frickin' record. Bob Weir's Ace album. If you've never heard this, check it out. It's really good. This was done after the Grateful Dead did American Beauty and Working Man's Dead. It would have been like the next Grateful Dead album in line. And all the Grateful Dead play on this. But it's all Bob Weir songs that became staples of Grateful Dead shows forever. Greatest Story Ever Told, Black Throated Woman, Playing in the Band, Looks Like Rain, Mexicali Blues, One More Saturday Night, and Cassidy are all the originals. I mean, this album is just fantastic from start to finish. There's a 50th anniversary release. The CD is out now. The vinyl, and it comes with a bonus live stuff. And the vinyl is coming out very soon, very shortly. I think in early February sometime. So I'm going to wait and hold out for the vinyl. But dying for that. It's a great album. If you've never heard it, and even if you're not a Grateful Dead fan, check out Bob Weir, Ace. Excellent album. I don't know what happened to John. I don't know if he was teasing me. Zappa's 2 new release. I know. Did you see that? Now there's a 3 CD set, one from 1980, live show in Germany and a live show in somewhere in the States with that really scaled down band that he had. It's like a 5-piece band, just pretty much a basic rock band. It should be really interesting. There's been very little released from that in the past, from those performances, from what I'm told. And man, I don't know. Where's everybody getting the money to buy new music? John says he's coming. Sure he is. We'll believe that when we see it. Yeah, I mean, Zappa just released the Waka Wazoo box set. I just bought that. I got that for Christmas, actually. I shouldn't say I bought it, but I got Waka Jawaka and Grand Wazoo on vinyl, which sound absolutely incredible. Yeah, Zappa's just putting out some great stuff. I would say between the Grateful Dead and Frank Zappa, they know how to treat their fans. The only example of Zappa where I think they went overboard and overcharged us for stuff and gave us stuff we don't really need was those stupid Halloween sets, which come with great music. The value of the music's incredible, but there was a mask and a cape and like, hey, I'm a grown man. I don't need a Halloween mask. I'm paying $140 for the stupid set to get the music. So, yeah, it bugs me. There's a 1981 set, Live 81. It's like $100 and some dollars. Here we go. John is joining us.
Hello.
How are you, man?
Good to see you.
Good. This is awesome.
Yeah, I was like
that someone like yourself would be around.
Yeah, I just got off with Rachel, and I'm like, oh, let me do a little live thing. I had a whole 4 people, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's Glenn. Let me go see Glenn.
I never do this.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I usually see you Tuesdays.
Yeah. So, and I'm sitting there, I'm bored. I was trying to do a video this morning. You think I could come up with an idea? I just couldn't.
No.
I recorded one yesterday, just showing my Who albums, and I felt like it was so low energy, I didn't want to put it up.
Yeah.
Then this morning I was so low energy, I put it up anyway.
Just go for it. Why not? Yeah, a good video right now I think might be. Did you hear about John Fogerty? He got all the rights back to his music.
That's very topical.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do with himself right now.
No, but he doesn't own the masters. Did he get the publishing rights? But he didn't get it's one or the other. I don't think he owns.
I would say
masters yet. I think whoever owned it before, it's a record company.
Yeah, so maybe it is the publishing, which would allow him to play it live, I guess.
Yeah, and plus he'll get more money when the songs are played and stuff.
Yeah.
But so he kind of owns them.
Yeah, so it's good. It's a good step because, man, I mean, can you imagine writing all those songs and
that was
not having access to them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and actually seeing someone that you absolutely hate who ripped you off getting the money for it.
Right.
Henry didn't play them.
Yeah. There's a similar thing even with Billy Joel with his first contract, because I'm doing a series on Billy Joel right now. And his first company, Family Productions, the guy did pretty much, he got a bad contract. So when that Cold Spring Harbor album came out, I don't know if you know the story, but where he sounded like a chipmunk on the recording, on the original. He tried to get out of the contract, finally did, and went to Columbia. But that guy from Family Productions ended up with some credits all the way up to like The Stranger. So he was making money off of Billy all that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many musicians get ripped off on their first contracts. Like I think it was, I don't know if it was XTC that I was reading about. These bands would tour and they'd be getting picked up in limousines and staying in the nicest hotels, and they think they got the world by the balls and everything's going great and they're selling lots of records. And then the record company would turn around and say, "Oh no, you owe us for those hotels and limousines. We're not giving those to you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I think they trusted them, and they
Yeah.
forgot these are businessmen. They don't care about the music.
No.
They want the money.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, Billy's landlord actually came knocking on the door in between Cold Spring Harbor and Piano Man, and Billy's like, "Yeah, there's a problem here." So he
Wow.
skipped town and went back to L.A.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even I was just reading a book on Frank Zappa book I got for Christmas. It's a whole story of the 1988 tour where we took a huge band on the road with horns and everything. It's like 20-piece band, and they had nothing but infighting. The band members hated each other. And at the end of the tour, everybody was expecting them to do another, like a U.S. dates, because they went all over Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank just phone said, "I'm done." And they were all pissed off at him. He's
Yeah.
going, "Yeah, I paid those guys to bitch and complain for 2 or 3 months on the road." He says they all made money every week. I lost $400,000.
Wow, man. Jeez. Yeah, he seemed like a no nonsense, straightforward guy. I'm starting to learn a little bit more about Zappa and appreciate his stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
see who's some people have comments here, John. We should. How many bands, artists are there that you like every album? Ooh,
Like every album.
there's quite a few actually.
Yeah.
I'm-
Yeah, I would say like the Doors. I like
yeah.
Billy Joel. No, I can't say that for Elton John. Elton John had a lot of stinkers out there.
Oh yeah, Elton John's got a lot of stinkers. Well, Billy Joel, I'm not sure. I kind of stopped buying Billy Joel albums at some point, so I'm not sure about anything
Yeah.
he's put out in the last 20 years or 30 years or something.
Well, he stopped in what 92 with his last album, but I grew
What
up.
was his last album?
I think it was 92 with River of Dreams.
River of Dreams. Okay, that's a
Yeah.
great song.
Yeah, I like the album. The production wasn't anywhere near like um, the earlier stuff. It was a little slightly overproduced, which is funny because on Cold Spring Harbor, he was bitching about the fact that it was overproduced, and then he goes and produces an album. But I grew up on Billy Joel, so he's like ingrained in me. It's like that artist you grew up with since you're like 8. So he can do no wrong by me.
Yeah.
So
I just watched them on CNN the other morning. They had that guy Fareed Zakaria or whatever his name is, as a show on CNN every Sunday. It's a total political show.
Yeah.
More world politics than U.S. politics. But he had an hour interview with Billy Joel.
Oh, well.
It was great.
Hopefully it wasn't political.
Not at all. No. It was just talking about his
out.
music, and he was sitting in his house. He's showing how he come up with the piano riffs for certain songs and stuff like that.
It's crazy because it was 93 actually, River of Dreams, but and it's funny because at that time he did an interview I just saw, and he said he was less interested in writing the music because he was getting tired of trying to come up with all the lyrics and writing it all out. And he was just actually, I'm sorry, it's backwards. He was going to stop touring. He was tired of touring at that time, and he was going to focus more on the writing, which is interesting. You flash back now, how many 30 years later, where he has only been touring. So it's kind of like he did the opposite. He was like, I don't want to tour anymore. Now that's all he does. I mean, he sells out Madison Square Garden and everything now.
Wow.
So
yeah. He sells a Madison Square Gardens a lot. So my son-in-law is a referee for WWE, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he whenever he does shows at Madison Square Gardens,
yeah,
Billy Joel has like an area there where he plays there so often that he's got, they walk by, this is Billy Joel's area. All his stuff's there. All the big traveling cases are all Billy Joel.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he has like residency there. It's kind of like Vegas for him. Yeah. And he lives out on the island, so it's perfect for him. I mean, he's going to ride off into retirement and just enjoying this, And his voice still
invite a couple other people up to join us here. Rob from Northern Reflections.
Yeah.
Rob, do you want to come on? And also Chris, blues vinyl guy. I don't know if you know Chris. He's from Calgary. He's another Canadian guy. I haven't talked to Chris for a long time. He's a really cool guy. Chris, you're more than welcome to come up. I just think I posted a link. No, I didn't. It's coming.
So who are some of your guys, Glenn, as far as your completist? Like you like every album by them?
Does that work? Oh, that didn't work. Let's do that again.
I saw the link pop up.
Right, and that link was bad. I double copied it, I think.
Yeah. I did some record purchasing recently and picked this up. figure out entertain them while you're
Okay,
shooting.
that's better. Chris, Rob, please come up. There's Rob. Didn't take him long.
There he
Rob,
goes.
how you doing, buddy? Do you know
I'm
John?
well. How are you guys?
Cool. He was just joining me on the other one there. It was
I was.
awesome.
Oh, cool.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. Glenn's up. Hold on. I was like, gotta go.
Can't compete.
No competition.
Chris, if you'd like to come up and say hello, please join us. Just jump on the link. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Where were we? Were talking? About Completist. Who am I Completist of?
Like artists, yeah, you like every album they put out.
I'd love to be a Zappa Completist, but there's 124 titles, and I've got about 62 of them. I feel like if you tell somebody you got 62 pieces of someone's catalog, they're going, "Holy crap!"
Yeah,
it's only half.
It's too much after a while.
But yeah, definitely Beatles.
Yeah.
Dylan.
Yeah.
Who else?
Yeah, I can agree on those.
Grateful Dead, except I can't keep track of all the live releases they put out, but studio stuff and all the official releases I can pretty much do.
What was the one they did in the 80s there with Touch of Grey? Is that one that you like too?
Touch of Grey. I do like Touch of Grey a lot.
Yeah. I don't know what that album was, but
In the Dark.
In the Dark, okay.
Yeah. I really like that album.
Okay. That put them on my radar. When I was in a band in the 80s, there was a band that shared the same space as us, and they were a Grateful Dead tribute band.
Oh, that would have been cool.
And at the time, I wasn't into the Dead as far as their recordings, but I loved watching those guys play.
Yeah.
I mean, they were improv, and you learned a lot from them.
Wow. Chris, you're more than welcome to come up. And Chris is a Montreal Canadiens fan too, Rob.
All right.
Yeah.
We can beat up on you. We can
Montreal
beat up on you.
Canadiens fans on a one chat. That might be too much.
Too many Beatles fans, yeah.
Wow.
What about you, Rob?
I'd be completest of.
Rob would be the Bengals, right? Anything Suzanne Hoffs related?
Oh, absolutely.
I loved it when you put her in your video. I was like, how did you do that? Where she freaking comes over from the side. And did you do the voice on that?
I did. I recorded and then I raised the pitch and played with it a little bit.
Yeah, you're killing it on the production. I'm like, I'm lazy. I light it well enough, but you're doing some stuff. I'm like, dang it, man.
I suck at the lighting part of it.
I don't know. I mean, it's not bad.
I can't do any editing at all. Zero.
The video that I just posted this morning, I think it took me 4 hours to edit it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Glenn's got the right idea. Get in, do the video, and get out. But I'm a perfectionist, and I'm like, I got to cut this, and I got to cut that.
Me too.
Oh, I would love to be able to do it. I think I need somebody over here. Just like I'm not very good if someone just sends, here's a thing to teach you how to do it, and it just goes in one ear and out the other. But if someone was here saying, if you press this button, do this, and I'd be able to do it. I think after that, so
yeah, it's pretty easy.
Hire an editor to come over and help me or something.
Yeah, you can get as creative as you want with it, and then you can go into the rabbit hole sometimes.
Like you got. I can't remember, John. Do you have a intro to your videos?
I did, and I stopped it. I got away from the intro. I like to just go right in. People have different styles, but I like to go in, and I actually took my intro and I just moved it to the end now, and it plays the music while it shows a featured video or whatever.
Yeah.
So I switched it up a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, you both you guys have great channels.
Yeah, it's fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Did you you uploaded your video for Christian's contest too, Rob? I haven't watched it.
I did.
Oh, the 365.
Yeah,
it was a fun one. I like that.
Yeah.
So that's just pick 3 genres. It seems like people are getting very vague with their genre.
It was 3. Yeah. Well,
like some were like all female artists. Is that a genre?
No.
So I was like,
so Rob did.
Well.
Was that you, Rob?
No.
Was that you?
I was kind of vague on my genres. I did three oldies records, and then I did 6 Canadian artists, and then I did 5 live albums.
Yeah, Canadian artists are not a genre.
Yeah, it's okay.
You're not video. I can do
it's a geographical thing.
Yeah, it is your video. Yeah.
No, but hold on. I would argue that there is a Canadian sound, and if you think there isn't, you haven't listened to enough Canadian music.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Right.
Now, do you have a Canadian section at your local record store? Canadian
yes,
artists?
Actually.
Yes.
Okay, then there you go. You have a genre.
Yeah.
Just about every record
Canadian
store,
records are worth a lot of money. Older ones, if they don't press a lot of them, right? If they're domestically produced, if they're international artists that are Canadian, like a Neil Young or something, no. But if you've got like a band like that, Rob's big fan of Blue Rodeo. I mean, those records, there's not a lot of those records made.
Or like your Lowest of the Low.
Lowest of the Low, the same. Some of the, the Lowest of the Low, Shakespeare in My Butt. That's $100 record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The guy that actually owns my local record store, he's from Canada.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Kingfish Records that I go through all the time over there. Yeah.
Cool. I gotta drive down. How far are you from Orlando?
So I'm on a good day, it should be without a stop over by Champions Gate. It should be an hour and 45 minutes.
Well, that's not bad.
No,
I gotta think about coming down to see you when I'm there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Take me to that record store.
Yeah, it's the Orlando ones are expensive. That one in St. Augustine
ridiculous.
Was priced well in St. Augustine, I thought.
Yeah. The Orlando ones are ridiculous. I don't know how anybody buys anything in there.
Yeah, you're flying down, right? You don't drive, do you?
No. Well, no. Most of the time we drive. I prefer to drive. My wife prefers to fly, but
stop in St. Augustine, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Good one. Especially this time of year where they have all the lights up in the city. It's nice.
Well, we would drive back up with my daughter or something, probably for a day. If we went down long enough, we'd just drive back up. Spend the day or something.
That's what we did last time. We stayed in Orlando and we just drove up to St. Augustine each day, and it was like an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes.
Did you end up going to Bright Light Books?
No, I haven't gone there. I haven't been back to Orlando, that area yet.
Yeah.
So it's actually on my list in my phone. It's like all these things I try. Look, when I go to Orlando, it's like family time. So when you see me do these videos, it's I ducked out and ran, filmed as fast as I possibly could, and got back to the family.
Family time mean you're going to Disney or Universal or something?
Yeah, we're season pass holders at Disney. So we stay at the Bonnet Creek all the time over there. But we go so often, we kind of just, you can go and come as you want. You don't have to spend the whole day over there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
I just go to the walks, like Universal Walk and the Disney Mall or whatever it is. That's all I do. I don't go into the park.
Yeah. Disney Springs, they have.
Disney
Springs.
Yeah.
I like Hollywood Studios because they have all the Star Wars stuff. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'd be fun to go in at some point. But
yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, about music, we're talking all this Star Wars.
Yeah, we're talking about geography here.
There's a cool video documentary on Disney Plus now about Abbey Road Studios.
I don't get Disney, and it's bugging me that I can't see it.
That's what Sam was talking about, right? I think I got it from him.
Yeah.
I watched it. It's really cool. I thought the Beatles opened Abbey Road Studios. I had no idea it's been around 30.
Oh, yeah, it's been around forever.
Yeah, and it was a house.
But it was called EMI. It wasn't called Abbey Road Studios until after it became famous.
Right.
Abbey Road. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Linda McCartney brings her. Now, I always thought the Jet song by Paul McCartney was about a dog, but it's about a horse. I had no idea.
I didn't know it was about either one.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew the rumor was a dog, but there's a picture of her in the documentary of her bringing her pony across Abbey Road where the Beatles walked and going into the studio with.
Oh, really?
The horse with the pony.
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a really good documentary.
Oh, it goes through the whole history, eh?
Yeah, it starts early with a classic cellist. I forgot her name, and it goes up through the Beatles to Pink Floyd. Roger Waters is in there. It goes Oasis is in there. So it's really good.
Yeah,
it's good.
I'd love to see it, but I'm just against this Disney thing. I can't.
Is it costly up there? Is that why, or you just got to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pay.
I don't know how much it is now. It's like
I pay
like $20 a month. It's
$16 or $20 a month or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
So the other thing you can do is you can do it on they give you the first 2 weeks free or something. You can do it on a trial and then cancel.
Yeah, you can do that.
Chris is going to join us here. Awesome. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, howdy. How's it going there, Glenn?
Good. Happy New Year.
I'm subscribed to
Happy New Year, guys. Hi.
Yeah. Chris, that's John, if you don't know, and Rob. Rob's the Montreal Canadiens fan.
Yeah, love the hat. Love the team.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was going to put mine on, but I didn't want us to be
overwhelming.
Poor Glenn with these.
Glenn would have had a coronary or something.
Yeah, I know. We can't kill Glenn.
No,
I know. Yeah,
he's
don't
too
kill
sweet of a guy.
Yeah.
So happy New Year, fellas. How you doing? How's everything going?
We're doing good.
Good.
This
was totally spontaneous, and everybody's as bored as I am on a Saturday afternoon. How's the weather in Calgary?
It's been beautiful for about 2 weeks. Finally, after almost a week of minus 40 Celsius / minus 40 Fahrenheit. Now, today we are plus 5 Celsius, which is about 40 Fahrenheit. So
getting into Chinook weather here.
Yeah, we've had a Chinook for about 10 days now.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's so strange when the east, like it's really cold here right now. It's like minus 15 or something.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, dude.
And you're plus 5. But when
did you get much of that snow, Glenn?
What's that?
Did you get much of that snow this week?
Yeah, we got about 3 inches yesterday.
We got about 1 on Thursday.
Yeah, we got it Thursday night all through Friday. It stopped at about 3 in the afternoon. And
Where are you at, Rob?
What's that? I'm just about an hour west of Toronto.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Great Lakes area, you guys get a lot more.
Chris is originally from the east.
Yeah, I'm originally from Montreal. So, but we get tons of snow out here in Alberta because the Rockies are like an hour drive west of where I am. It's the Canadian Rockies.
Right.
And Calgary itself is almost as high as Denver in terms of elevation above sea level. So we just get a lot of snow here in the winter. So these Chinooks are a nice break.
Back in the 80s when I worked out in Alberta, I lived in Tabor, Alberta. I'm sure Chris knows where Tabor is. About 2.5 hour drive.
The capital of Canada.
Yeah. About a 2.5 hour drive. So the company I worked for, they owned the Calgary Flames.
Oh.
And this is when the Saddle Dome first opened.
Yeah, okay, I remember that.
82 or 83, maybe 81.
I think that was.
So anyway, they offered
us a little after that, but somewhere in the 80s.
Tickets to a game. So I picked the Leaf game.
Yeah,
and
sure. Why wouldn't you? Right?
We got 3 tickets and we had 3 guys who worked in our office or our location, plus our boss. And then so the 3 of us after work drove up. Weather was clear. Made it to Calgary for game time. Watched the whole game. Come out. There's a freaking blizzard. Like I'm talking. You can't see your hand in front of your face.
Yeah.
And we have to
coming
drive back
upwards somehow.
Our shop the next day. So we take off, and I'm telling you, a guy on the passenger side had to drive with the window open with the snow blowing in at us so he could look to the side to make sure I wasn't driving off the road because you couldn't see like past the steering wheel.
Oh, that's how
drove.
That's how Canadians drive coast to
that
coast
whole
to coast
way home like that. You know what time we left the Saddle Dome at 10:30 at night after the game or 10 o'clock or whatever. You know what time we got home? 6 a.m.
Oh shit!
That's how long the drive was.
Oh,
do a 2.5 hour drive.
Oh man, it's brutal.
Man, had to open the shop for 7.
So John, whereabouts are you in the world, John?
Florida.
Oh wow, okay.
So it snowed here once in 88, 89. It was just enough snow on the ground where we were scraping it up and building little snowmen that melted by half an hour later.
Yeah.
But we were like, ooh, snow. And we're scraping off of cars and everything. We're like,
it's a trade-off.
I love watching Americans who see snow for the first time, and I'm sitting there cursing under my breath like, you lucky bastards. If I ever see snow ever again, it's too goddamn soon.
Yeah.
But it's a trade-off, though, because in Florida, you get hurricanes and you get flooding and that sort of thing, too, right? So, I mean, everywhere there's something.
There's something,
earthquake.
I'd rather have the snow than the hurricanes, I think.
Yeah.
Those things, they scare the crap out of you. You think you're all fine, and all of a sudden it's like, get out of town. So
a snowstorm isn't going to blow your house off its foundation and carry it out to sea or whatever. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's for sure. Somebody says, get the Disney, Hulu, ESPN pack. It's like, Bob. Bob's in the States, though, right? Don't forget, we're poor Canadian guys. We can't. We don't get those specials.
Well, Rob had the pricing right because that's about what I pay a month for that. But I have the Hulu ESPN deal.
Yeah.
You know what Canadians have to do to get really good television is you climb up into a tree with some garbage can lids, and then you attach some coat hangers and run some wet string. Yeah. Pull that wet string real tight. Tie that to the back of your TV. You might get 5 channels.
There you go.
2 of them will be French, but that's fine. That's
like when I was a kid, we had to go outside and turn the antenna. It's Friday night and the Dukes.
Oh man, I remember those days.
Get some aluminum foil up there.
And then someone invented the rotor.
Yeah.
You
Oh
could
yeah,
actually-
my dad had one of those.
Yeah, jeez.
And it would
You
rotate.
could stay in the house and
TV
get your
antenna.
antenna
Oh, yeah,
turned.
yeah.
This is
Yeah.
incredible.
That was fancy right there.
When I was a little kid, I was the clicker, and my dad would say, "Son, turn it to channel 11. MASH is on."
Yeah.
I remember
grab
the
that huge
VCR.
dial on that big
Yeah.
wooden cabinet TV. Dunk, 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 dunk
Yeah.
to channel 11.
Yeah. Yeah, when the VCR remote was actually connected to the VCR by a wire.
Yeah.
So my dad's recliner was like 10 feet away from the TV.
The good old days.
Yeah.
Back when they had cassettes.
Yeah.
Oh, cassettes.
Man, yeah.
Hi guys, I just noticed you're on. Thanks for entering my contest, Glenn and Rob. No problem. Oh, he's shaming Chris and John.
Mine's in the works. I will do
You know
his.
what,
I will do it.
I rarely do contests anymore, and to be honest, I don't even know why.
I don't do many either.
It's fun. Well, see, Glenn, when you were like, and you didn't know what to do today, there you go. You should have done.
I could have done a contest. You're right.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, I want to do another video. I might just do a contest. I haven't done Larry Graves' contest yet.
Yeah, I got to do that one too.
Which one?
For I don't know. For a while, there was just too many contests. It was like
Yeah.
push to 1 subscriber. Really? Like it's a
Yeah.
brand new channel and you're having a contest or whatever.
Yeah, I
I
just,
love the
Like
contest.
if somebody's reached a milestone, like, hey, I've just reached 500 subscribers. I want to have a contest to thank my subscribers and give away a gift or whatever. That's cool. But
Yeah.
when like every month it's like, oh, I'm at, I want, try to get 10 more subscribers to get to 50. It's like, come on, man. Like,
yeah.
take
Chris
it
was
easy.
good. He was just celebrating his first year anniversary in the VC.
Yeah, and it was creative. I like the 365 thing. He played
Yeah.
around with it a little bit. It
No
was
Yeah,
good.
see,
pressure,
that kind
John
of
and
stuff.
Chris.
That
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Could be
Okay,
cool.
there you go.
Yeah.
He's taking the pressure right off you.
Where was Christian 10 minutes ago when Glenn was giving me shit because my entry weren't real genres?
Yeah, Chris, I want you to disqualify Rob's entry.
It was just a
There's going to
question.
be a complaint filed if he wins.
Glenn, can you stop perpetuating the crotchety old man stereotype?
Well, I was confused. I thought I was reading it wrong. That's why I was asking, because I'm like, why are people doing it about women? And what I thought a genre was a genre, but like you said, there's a Canadian genre, so you got
It
it.
really
Well,
is.
I mean, you could argue that female singers it's
I
got a
guess.
certain sound to it, right? It's subjective. It's
Yeah,
music.
but it's not a genre of music because you'd like.
But
I
who are
should be
you,
able
the
to play
genre-
any-
who
I
are
should
you,
be,
the
as a
genre
musician,
police?
play any kind of genre of music. Like I can play
genre
jazz,
cops,
I
look
can
out.
play blues, I can play, but I can't play female.
Why
I
can't
can't-
you?
I can't physically play female genre of music.
Why
Yeah, you can't
couldn't
pick up your banjo and
I can't
play
pick my banjo and
female
play
genre.
female
Oh, I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
like
But I
I
can
face
play
it, these-
jazz and I can play blues and I can play rock.
Yeah.
And I can,
Let's
I have
face it,
mine
these categories were created by the record companies back in the teens
Yeah.
and 20s so that they could market certain types of music to certain people. And this gave birth
Yeah.
to race records, which eventually became black people only music, right? If you were white, you bought hillbilly music. If you were black, you bought race records.
Yeah.
And then they were subdivided amongst those two sort of main genres, right? And that's just become, it's ridiculous.
I like it by mood. I'll have my jazz together because if I'm in a jazz mood, I want all my jazz albums together so I can pick. So I have jazz, blues is separate, rock and pop is all together, and then I have country separate. That's it.
That's kind of what I do with my collection too.
Yeah.
My blues albums are all in one separate unit, and then I have rock and pop, and I don't know what you'd call oldies, I guess, like Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis and stuff. That's all together, and then country is separated, jazz is separated. Because sometimes I feel like listening to Hot Lips Page or Louis Armstrong, so I go to my jazz section and pull that up. Right?
Yeah, it's a mood, and what I like is it helps me get to know it. Like I'm still trying to learn jazz, and I'm still trying to learn more about the blues. So it lets me go right in to where all of it is and pull one out and learn about that album instead of going through my whole collection, going which one's a blues album. So
yeah.
personal taste, I guess.
And some of it's tough too, right? Like Clapton, where do you put him? Blues,
Well, that's
rock,
what I was just going to
rock
say.
pop.
It would.
You know.
I would sit on my couch and it would drive me freaking crazy knowing that I had Clapton split up in 4 different genres.
I have them in 2.
Yeah, no, I can't do. I can't do that.
That's why
How
everything
do you-
for me
where
is
do you put 'em then?
alphabetized.
Yeah, songs.
For me personally, I have Clapton in blues.
Do you?
Do you?
All,
Yeah.
like even August? See, that would be hard to put August and you
Yeah.
know,
How do you put 461 Ocean Boulevard in blues? Or
Yeah.
Because I
couldn't do it.
kind of
See, then
figured
I'd
like
be going, no, it
once
doesn't belong.
Yeah, but all rock and
Because I
roll is
look at-
based on blues. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I look at the birth of Clapton's musical career, and it was
Yeah.
much more blues based.
Sure.
So I go,
Absolutely.
okay,
Yeah.
starting from the earliest Clapton recordings I have, which is much more bluesy. So then now I put his albums chronologically, so it ended up in blues. Same as Ry Cooder. Ry Cooder, for me, I have him in blues.
Yeah, he's all over
Yeah.
the place too.
Which
right?
people would be like, "Are you nuts?" But I mean, there's a lot of his albums that are very bluesy, and even
Yeah.
if the album itself isn't blues tinged, he'll have a blues song on there. He'll have some old.
So
Howlin'
what about
Wolf
meeting?
song or
If you
something.
had Meeting by the River, which he did with that VM Bot guy in India or whatever, you put that under blues?
Well, because Ry Cooder's already in blues, it would just go chronologically in the Ry Cooder.
Wow. See, that would
section of blues.
I couldn't
Yeah,
rest.
about the sound. Like,
I couldn't sleep. I'd be laying awake going like, why is
Yeah.
that happening?
so I put my Clapton, all my Claptons in rock and pop, but I took the Robert Johnson one, and if I ever get From the Cradle, those are just soaked in blues albums. So those went over into the blues. So that's the only Clapton I took away from it because it's in my blues section.
Right.
I don't break up a lot, but if it's a true blues album, like if I got Honkin' on Bobo or whatever, the Aerosmith one,
Yeah, Honkin' with Bobo. Yeah.
that would, I guess, would have to go into the blues because that's pure blues.
Yeah.
Other than that, I try to just keep everything pretty standard.
I think the rule is file your collection on how it's easiest for you to find an album when you want to find it.
Yeah, like
It's
for
easier
me,
to file everything under jazz and everything under and that's the way you find your records. That's good.
well, I start driving myself nuts too, because there's some artists that are kind of bluesy, but they're also soulful, right?
Yeah.
Like Aretha Franklin or Ray Charles.
Yeah.
So where do I put Aretha and where do I put Ray Charles?
Ray Charles is
So
R&B and
Ray Charles, I put him in blues. But
Yeah.
Aretha, I put her in rock and pop, because in my rock and pop cabinet or shelving unit, I have a sort of a Motown and R&B sort of sounding pop and soulful pop.
It's the sound, right? You want to.
But I mean, really, Aretha could be right next to Ray Charles in the blues. So sometimes I drive myself nuts, and sometimes I switch them. Right?
See,
Like,
I'm
running out of room in the blues, so I got to pull Ray Charles out and stick him in with pop. So I have more room for Muddy Waters or
this is
whatever,
awesome.
right?
Yeah,
I just put everything alphabetical because then I know I can find it.
Yeah, I just knew in jazz and blues I needed those separate because I'm really trying to learn them.
Yeah.
So I could go right to it and just get a good sounding, totally blues album, or jazz album or whatever. So,
I like that question in the chat earlier, by the way, about what artists or bands do you like to try to be, to complete their collection? That's a great question, because there's tons that you would love to, but it's almost impossible. Like Neil Young, right? Like, come on.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how many Neil Young.
Or God rest his soul, Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's got, like 60 some appearances between compilations, guest appearances, Jeff Beck Group, Yardbirds. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Plus all the bootleg stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's.
Yeah. And he went in and out so much. Like Clapton is pretty straightforward. Like he had his bands, then he was kind of just Clapton forever. Jeff Beck was in and out of different bands.
Yeah.
Constantly. So,
and sometimes would leave a band and come back, like Yardbirds.
Yeah.
Right? Like he did a stint and then he bugged out and then he came back.
Yep.
So it's like, so then what do? Do you have your Yardbirds without Beck next to your Jeff Beck? Or, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's crazy.
Yardbirds are filed under Y and Jeff Beck's filed under B.
Yeah,
I'm
me
with
too.
you, Glenn.
Yeah,
me too. Me too.
I did that with the Billy Joel stuff. I have Hassles and Attila, but I'm a Billy Joel completist, so I took them out of category and put them with the Billy Joel stuff, just because I know it's Billy Joel all the way from beginning to end. So
you do have me thinking I might segregate my jazz stuff. I'm thinking about it. I got it all mixed in, and then when I pull a jazz album, I'm always kind of looking for another one. Yeah, I might pull jazz because I got bluegrass separate.
It's a mood. Yeah,
Glenn, don't use segregate when it comes to jazz.
Yeah.
Okay, that's racist.
No.
You're better than that.
The records.
We're Canadian up here. We're supposed to be all inclusive, you bastard. I'm telling Trudeau on you.
Wrong choice of words.
I'm phoning Trudeau right now.
Christian has given you his blessing on your video, Rob.
Good.
You're okay.
Good.
He won't. If I file a grievance, he'll just throw it out.
Good.
Good, because I was going to do a genre of artists who wear sneakers, so I'm going to start there.
Yeah. Rob's all good and easy going. Yeah, I was just teasing him.
Yeah, but high
I
tops
know, yeah.
are low top sneakers, though.
The low top, the high, yeah, that's the problem. No, I just
now you got to subdivide it again. Right?
David.
And do you call them sneakers or runners, or do you call them cross trainers? See, now you got to subdivide
now
them
we're
again. Now you get regional subgenres.
Yeah. What about you, Rob? How do you do your categorizing? Do you just throw everything together?
Everything's together, A to Z, and then within each artist, it's chronological. So
Okay.
And I have a lot of artists that I'm complete on. The Beatles, the band, U2, Creedence.
Creedence!
Yeah,
Sorry.
I have all Creedence. Yeah,
I have Creedence Tourette's. Whenever I hear Creedence, I freak out. I love them so much.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Creedence.
See, there it is again.
it's like the Holy Spirit coming out of you.
It is. I love those dudes, man. They're one of the best. They're seriously one of the. I grew up.
Sounds spiritual. Creedence Clearwater Revival.
That's one of those bands that's the soundtrack of my life when I was a kid growing up. My parents loved them.
Same here.
My French Canadian uncle, Uncle Michel, was a huge Creedence fan, and he actually gave me my first Creedence record when I was a teenager. So
another band that transcends generations. There's not many. I always say the Beatles. Like, my kids love them. I'm thinking my grandkids are going to love them. Like, this
Beatles, Stones,
Creedence. You guys, another example of that. Like, everybody loves Creedence.
Did you guys see yesterday? John Fogerty has the rights back to all the songs.
Yeah, John and I were talking about that earlier. That's great news.
That's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
But he didn't get the whole 100%. It's something about the publishing or the master. He doesn't own the masters, but he has the publishing rights, I think.
I think that's the more important piece is the publishing rights.
Yeah. So very cool. I'm sure
think
Paul
even
McCartney's
today,
going, damn it, how did he get that?
I think even today, even with modern artists or artists that have been in the business for years and they're still producing and putting out content today, I think a lot of them in their contracts, they don't necessarily have own the rights to their own masters. They have, the rights to the actual publishing rights and distribution rights or whatever, but they may not even own the masters. And I know back in the day, that was a trick that a lot of the labels used to love.
That's true. You're probably right. Yeah. And the thing they asked John Fogerty, I was reading an interview about it. He, you know how nowadays everybody sold their catalogs and for hundreds of millions of dollars. He says that he's not interested. He said because now that he finally has his babies back, he's not.
You still want to give them up for
adoption. Wants to enjoy having
them.
Yeah. So, because he could turn, how much could he, these guys are all getting $500 million for their collections. I'm sure he would be right up there with the big bucks for those classic songs. Oh my God.
Yeah, for sure. And that, speaking of completists, that's one band definitely I'm a completist for is Creedence. Yeah. If I come across, I'm out digging somewhere at some store, some flea market or whatever, and even if I come across some weirdo bootleg from I don't know, Hungary or something, if I can play it, I'll buy it.
Wow.
That's definitely, I'm definitely a completist with Creedence and Ry Cooder actually too.
I'm a Ry Cooder completist.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Stones too. Stones I'm a completist as well.
Yeah.
Zeppelin, of course.
I was in a restaurant. Asked the guy, Chris, did you like Elvin Bishop after he left Paul Butterfield?
Yeah, I have about 4 or 5 Elvin Bishops. I like Elvin. Excellent guitar player. Very energetic, very upbeat style of playing. Because a lot of people have this misconception about blues players or bluesy music, that it's sad, depressing, woe-is me, cotton-picking music that your great-great-granddaddy used to listen to, down in the South and Alabama. And that's all bullshit. There's just as much blues out there that's uplifting and makes you feel great when you're feeling down. That's why I think it was Willie Dixon that said blues is the truth. Because if you're feeling low, it'll lift you up. And if you're feeling too spastic or chaotic, blues will kind of cool you out and chill you out a little bit, right? And Elvin Bishop's one of those guys that if you're feeling kind of down, the way he plays can lift your spirits. He's very, very snappy in the way he plays. Yeah.
I've never paid much attention to his solo career other than he had that big hit, "Fooled Around and Fell in Love."
Yeah. Which is kind of more of a soul joint than a blues joint, but
Yeah.
it's very
So
good.
does his albums don't sound like that? Like, do they sound much more bluesy than that?
They sound a little bit more bluesy, sort of boogie woogie bluesy in the
Yeah.
sense again that it's more up tempo. Um, Very similar to Butterfield stuff, but maybe not quite as Chicago based in its
Yeah.
sound. He does kind of experiment a little more. He might add some country flavorings. He might add some soul flavorings. Kind of like Paul Butterfield did himself later on when he kind of started doing more solo stuff and just
Yeah.
recording with studio guys, session
Mhm.
guys instead of a band, right? Um, he kind of started playing around with more soulful vocal
Yeah. Oh,
stylings and that
absolutely.
sort of thing. But
What's a
yeah,
good
I like Alvin Bishop. He's great. Very,
What's a
very
good
good.
Butterfield to start with? I see him all the time in the blues, and I really haven't taken the time to check him out.
East West is
Oh,
great.
I've heard of that. Okay.
my favorite.
Anything that's live by Paul Butterfield, I highly recommend.
Okay.
Especially their if you can get a hold of their Newport appearance. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I would say probably their first Buster Crabshaw is very good, but
Yeah.
I would say probably their first 4 or 5 are really, really strong.
Yeah.
Really, really strong.
Are
Yeah.
they like John Mayall and the Blues Breakers blues, or
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
okay?
Yeah. Although they're very, very heavily Paul Butterfield himself is very heavily influenced by Little Walter's playing, Little Walter
Okay.
from Muddy Waters band.
Yeah.
So they definitely have, and they are from Chicago.
Okay.
So they do have that very, that's the Chicago blues, not the Detroit blues like John Lee Hooker. It's the Chicago blues, which is definitely it's basically Mississippi Delta blues, but electrified.
Okay.
And they have that sound. It's a
Okay.
slightly more traditional 12-bar blues sound, right?
Yeah, I have to check them out. Okay.
But they're
Yeah,
excellent.
Paul
Paul was a fantastic harmonica player.
Oh, amazing.
Very good voice.
Oh.
And then in their earlier years, they had Elvin Bishop. They had, what's his name, Glenn?
Michael Bloomfield.
Bloomfield, thank you. Sam Lay on drums was their
Mhm.
original drummer. Outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
good.
you won't go wrong with any, especially the first 3, I think, are
Yeah.
classics.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're excellent.
Hey, Glenn. Hey, Adam. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Wow. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything coming up that you're looking at purchasing?
I just
Always.
pre-ordered the upcoming U2 40 Songs of Surrender box.
Oh, okay. Boy, it's getting a lot of press.
Weren't you? I couldn't remember. I remember Sam was into it. Rob, I wasn't sure if you were sure about it at first.
I wasn't, but I'm a U2 completist.
So okay, I kind of like what I'm hearing, but I see what you're saying. They did The Streets Have No Name, or no? Is that the one that they've been playing?
The one that's streaming right now is they did Pride in the Name of Love. They also did Beautiful Day, are the 2 that I've heard, and
it's it is a little lounge acty.
Yes,
I like
you hit the nail on the head. Yes,
right. They brought it down to the basics acoustic, but yeah, Bono's kind of like, hey, Vegas, that's what it feels like a little bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of these rock cats do that when they get older, right? Like Rod Stewart in the late 60s, early 70s was one of the greatest rock and roll voices of all time. And I mean, obviously, the older he gets, his voice, he can't do that anymore. So he starts doing the crooner, Tony Bennett type stuff. And I mean,
it was huge for him.
And he was extremely successful. I think he won Grammys for some of that stuff he was doing. So
it made me throw up in my mouth a little bit, but
I have a cynical opinion on why U2 did this. I think they did it so that they could put something out, because it's been 4 or 5 years since Songs of Experience, and they can't tour because Larry Mullen has to have back surgery, so he can't play drums. So they're not going to tour without him. Apparently, they have an album in the can. They've apparently done a rock album inspired by AC/DC, but they can't tour behind it, so they're not going to put it out. So I think they just wanted to put something out, and they've had such good Bono's had such good response to the book. I think they just did this as an easy way to release something to put an album out.
And isn't there some kind of weird publishing deals go on in Europe that aren't in North America, that if you don't re-record your music or put it out in some form in a certain amount of years, it becomes public domain and anybody can use it?
I thought that was 50 years.
Is
Yeah.
it 50?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know it's different in Europe than it is in Canada and the US.
I could be wrong, but I thought it was 50.
Yeah, because Dylan did a whole thing where he had to put out a bunch of greatest hits albums over there a few years ago, and they're, it's just,
I thought it was 50 because I thought I had read that that's why the Beatles did the remasters of the last 4 albums, because those are the ones that were coming up on their 50th anniversary.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but
I'm sure there's a lawyer watching that somewhere.
Probably.
Yeah.
I doubt there's a lawyer watching us, but you never know.
Well, you never know. Jeff Beck live at Ronnie Scott's show. Yeah, that is a good show.
Yeah, I heard that's a good album. Good live album.
Yeah, his playing got a little weird for me for a while. The first time I heard it get really strange, and he was really trying to do different things, was on the Bon Jovi album that he did for that Young Guns movie. And the guitar work was just like, what am I listening to? So it sounded like he was really going to a weird sound. I don't know if you guys have the same experience. But
there was an album called Guitar Shop or something that's really just heavy, freaking shredding guitar. Like after a while, it's overwhelming. Like it's good for one or two tracks, but
it didn't feel structured or something. It didn't appeal to me. I don't know why.
Not usually a blues fan, but I came across 2 Paul Butterfield albums, East West, and 2 great albums. Buy them.
Yeah, those are 2 classics for sure. I mean, if you're a blues fan, or even if you actually, you know what, scratch that. Even if you're just dipping your toe in the blues pool the very first time, those are 2 excellent classic albums.
Absolutely. Rod Stewart and the Jeff Beck Group. I was saying, I saw the original Rod Stewart and the Jeff Beck Group in 1968 in Toronto.
That was, and didn't they have Ronnie Wood on bass?
Ronnie Wood on bass.
Yeah. Love Ronnie Wood too, man. He's fantastic. Love Ronnie Wood.
Yeah, David.
Anybody with the Stones, love them.
Yeah. David there has some videos. I've been watching his. He has a lot of 45s, and he seems to know a lot about these artists and who wrote this or that. So you might want to. He's pretty new. But he's got a lot of cool information about these 45s.
Yeah. Which blues stuff are you into, John? That you would have been delving into?
The latest one I picked up was the Record Store Day. This one I was really happy with.
That's excellent.
And I hadn't heard of him before. And there was another one that came out. I forgot his name, but B.B. King has some new John Lee hookers that I picked up recently.
Oh, fantastic!
Finally got the Robert Johnson stuff. The collection of that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's must-have stuff. Yeah.
I'm just looking for whatever kind of comes across my path. The BB I like is that Indianola, Mississippi Seeds.
Yeah, very good.
Watermelon guitar in the front. That is.
Yeah.
Any Muddy Waters albums are worth having.
Yeah.
Anything Muddy, anything Howlin' Wolf.
Howlin' Wolf, wheelchair, or not the wheelchair, the rocking chair album.
Yeah. Anything by, and most especially anything they did on Chess back in the day too.
Yeah. Willie Dixon, I Am the Blues.
Yeah, that's
absolutely, yeah.
And my favorite, Johnny Winter's Progressive Blues Experiment, is my favorite blues.
Yeah, Johnny Winter's amazing. He was amazing. God rest his soul too. Yeah.
Yeah, this year I picked up Born Under a Bad Sign, the Albert King album.
Yeah, that's a classic too.
And there's what's the one he has, like it's like a bus on the front of the album cover. I forgot the name of the album. It's an Albert King album. It looks like a bus or a tour van.
Oh wow.
I know it when I see it, so I want to grab it. I saw only one, but it was in bad shape.
Oh, jeez.
I'll have to look it up. But
stumped me now. You stumped the blues guy.
Oh, look at that. All right. Yeah, there's just so many. Even Lead Belly, all those guys are killer.
Yeah, it's a big rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah.
Rory Gallagher.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Rory Gallagher. Yeah, absolutely. I've probably got about 10 of his albums.
Yeah.
He's one that I'm trying to be a completist on, but again, that's tough because there's been so many one-off bootleg things.
Yeah, he's got a mixed up catalog.
Yeah, but he's what I like about it's the Irish blues players were able to sort of capture the essence of the blues a little bit more, I think, than some other countries or regions in the world. And I think it's because they share a very similar background to a lot of the early African-American blues artists, and again, I don't want to perpetuate the stereotype of its depressing music, but a lot of that is sort of the birth of why blues became the genre that it became was, steeped in the history and the tradition of the African American experience. But I think a lot of that is shared by the Irish in a lot of respects. So I think a lot of them get it, and Rory Gallagher most especially gets it. The guy can play, and I really like his voice too. He had an incredibly strong voice, but he could also be very subtle and almost in a whisper sometimes. Yeah,
that's cool.
Samantha Fish and Joanne Shaw Taylor. I don't know either of them. Actually.
Samantha Fish is pretty good, great, more blues rock. Good voice, great guitar player. Joanne Shaw Taylor, I'm not familiar with.
I like Big Mama Thornton. I mean, that's one of my favorite female.
Oh yeah, love Big Mama.
I think the best female blues guitarist of all time is probably Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Yes.
The grandmother of the blues, right?
Yeah.
She basically invented rock and roll styled guitar solos.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to listen to some of.
I've seen some old videos of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, she would real big lady, and she had that guitar, and she just
it's cool to just shred that thing.
Oh, it's the confidence. Yeah, she's just like whatever,
And again, a beautiful voice too. So she never even really had to play guitar, and she probably would have been super successful just because of her voice. And she did gospel and blues, right? So she kind of was dipping her toe into two genres and making that double cash. So more power to her. But she could really play that guitar too, man. Amazing.
What was her big song?
Did It Rain? This Train? Up Above My Head.
Okay.
Even her more bluesy tracks were sort of gospel tinged, except for when she did some body hokum, what they called hokum, or like dirty lyric blues back in the, I think in the late 30s, maybe early 40s, which was kind of a subgenre of the blues, kind of like it was like the Dirty Dozens and kind of body raunchy.
Yeah.
Oh, even more so than that. Like they would actually swear on recordings and as opposed to doing double entendre references to sex or sexual organs, they would actually just say it. Like
stay right in.
Instead of saying, I want some sugar. Instead of I want some sugar in my bowl, they would say, basically they wouldn't mince words.
Right.
Try to keep it PG here. So yeah, and
Big Mama did some of those records.
Big Mama, she gets dirty, man, but she's more entendre. There's a couple that come close. You're like, oh, that's not as creative right there.
But Sister Rosetta, it's surprising because people think of her as being sort of spiritual blues singer and gospel, but she did some of that body dirty stuff back in the day too. And it's a funny thing about blues. A lot of those artists did. A lot of them were ordained ministers. They'd fetch the Lord and they'd feel remorseful about the blues. So I go over here and, I'll jump up on the pulpit and I'll preach and I'll release gospel songs. But then they look back and they're like, geez, they're having a lot of fun over there with that corn liquor and those big booty ladies. I believe I'll go back over here for a while. Then they get all remorseful and then they go back to singing gospel back and forth. Like Skip James did that. Charlie Patton did that. Son House did that. A lot of them were spiritual recording artists, and then they would also do blues. Sometimes they changed their name so that they could kind of fool people.
Really?
Because they didn't want to upset their gospel buying fans.
That's funny.
So they put out gospel records under one name, like Reverend such and such.
Oh, okay.
But then they would release stuff as Charlie Patton for their bluesy stuff.
Yeah, Charlie Patton. I have one rough album of his, and I love his voice. It's just gruff and
very much like Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah, and he was pre Robert Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was kind of the second generation of recorded artists. The first generation being the classic blues period of the 20s, and then into the 30s you get the second generation, starting with like Son House and Charlie Patton and Papa Charlie Jackson and all them cats. Then you get into the late 30s, early 40s, and that's where you get into the third generation: Robert Johnson, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Johnny Shines, all those cats, right? So
yeah.
Well, we're talking about female
blues turned 100. Blues turned 100 in terms of popular recordings last year, right? So
wow, that's crazy, eh?
But prior to that, the earliest recordings were 1908. But in terms of being popular, categorized as blues music in the subgenre of race records, 1922, 23. So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Another female artist I want to mention is Elizabeth Cotton.
Yes, yeah, that sort of folky blues.
Yeah.
A lot of train songs, a lot of
Yeah.
work songs. Yeah,
Great guitar
beautiful
picker.
voice. Yeah, nice picker. Yeah, kind of the Piedmont style, not that rough Delta style, more the intricate chord progression, finger picking style.
Right.
Yeah, like
There's a
Skip
lot to learn.
James.
That's the thing. Every day you learn a new artist and something that, like you've mentioned 5 people I never heard of in the blues genre. It's like every day you learn something new about a new artist or something.
Sure, we all do. I mean,
Yeah.
I still hear of people. I'm like, who the hell is that? Like earlier in the comments, Joanne Shaw Taylor. Never heard of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm going to look her up after this
Yep.
chat and see what she's about.
Yep.
Gary Moore, another great guitar player.
Yeah, very good. It was a couple of years ago. I got some VCLT, and it was Gary Moore, and he's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, James Griffiths from over in the UK sent me a double album of his. It's just incredible.
Oh, cool.
Beautiful
Yeah,
playing.
I've got a CD. It's called Best of the Blues, and Gary Moore, and it's one CD studio, and the other one's live. And he's got a lot of guest blues artists like B.B. King's on it, and I can't remember all the blues guys who come on with them, but it's incredible. They do a great version of "The Thrill Is Gone" live with BB and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
BB's one of my cherished favorites. He
Yeah.
was just so good. He was so important to the blues, and he was just such a great player, and just had such a powerful,
Yeah.
soulful voice. He was just, to me, he was one of the greats of all time. He took blues from, he was a tractor driver in Mississippi, and he just took the blues all over the world, like Russia, China, Japan, South America, you name it. Like, just incredible ambassador for the genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny when he's such a distinctive player, like you can tell it's BB right when you first hear a note.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he's so like he'll play 3 notes when he's playing with another guitar player like Clapton or whoever, or Gary Moore. You hear when BB comes in to play his part, he's played about 3 notes at the same time that Gary Moore's played 100, but BB still says the same. He still is just as effective.
Yeah, by play. It's a lot of times that's what they say, right? It's not only knowing when to play the notes, but when not to play a note.
Right.
You can play one note, another guy play 100, and he say exactly the same thing. You get the same emotion from it.
Yeah.
And BB didn't play chords, right? He only played lead. Like he didn't.
Yeah, he just single string plucking.
He had a good backup supporting band. He just came in and sang and
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And BB himself said that jazz guitarists are better at playing blues than blues guitarists are because they know the chord progressions better. Because a lot of blues guitarists are self-taught, or they learned from a guy who was self-taught, and it was passed down, over generations, right? Like even Howlin' Wolf learned to play from Charlie Patton by taking lessons from Charlie Patton on Dockery's plantation.
Wow.
So that's why Howlin' Wolf's style, especially in the early part of his career, he sounds like Charlie Patton in the way he sings, but also his guitar playing was much more, for lack of a better term, more primitive sounding than his guitar playing later on in his career. In the 50s, once he got that sort of Memphis blues sort of sound that he really sort of helped to create, right? Along with Memphis Recording Service / Sun Records and all those cats, right?
Yeah.
Are there any current blues guitar players, like in a younger generation of blues players?
Oh, some that are just face melters, like Christone Kingfish Ingram.
I don't know. I don't know that.
Yeah,
that guy.
I don't know.
There's guys like Joe Bonamassa.
I'm getting my pad out.
There's guys like Joe Bonamassa that I'm not a big fan of.
I'm not a big Joe Bonamassa fan either for some reason.
It's technical for a blues player. It's not a feel. It's like he's been playing since he's like 6 years old, so he just knows. So you don't get the feeling out of it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a virtuosic guitar picker or player, and then there's blues players that are and were like that, like Robert Johnson, for example, right? But the fact is that, yes, if there isn't any kind of soul or feeling behind it, it's kind of empty.
Right.
And I find that not all of Bonamassa's, and I don't want to pick on him because I know he's got a lot of fans and each to his own, but to me, it's a little hollow sounding compared to somebody like Kingfish Ingram, who's a young cat. He's still in his 20s.
Yeah.
He's gotten a big push and big props from guys like Buddy Guy, who's a living legend, greatest electric blues guitar player of all time, in my opinion.
Right.
Still alive. Even Clapton says Buddy Guy is the greatest living blues guitarist. So that Chris Stone Kingfish Ingram kid is incredible.
Wow, I've got to check him out. I just wrote it down.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's probably for everyone, again, that I've heard of or I'm familiar with, there's probably dozens out there that I don't even know.
I just can't think of any. I mean, somebody's
Gary Clark Jr. is great. I mean, he's not new.
Oh, Gary Clark Jr. Yeah, I got one of his CDs. He's really good.
Yeah.
I was surprised, actually. I kind of ignored him for a long time and then picked up a used CD really cheap, and I thought, man, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah, he's great.
See, Jim mentions Tedeschi Trucks Band, one of my favorite bands. But
Derek
Trucks, I don't know if I consider them a blues band.
No,
bluesy. It's got that blues feel. Definitely.
Certainly an element in there for sure.
Derek's a great bottleneck player.
Yeah, it goes beyond the blues with those guys.
Yeah.
I like their last set of EPs they put out, the 4 albums.
Yeah, fantastic.
Based off the story of Layla, it's really good. I like it.
I got all 4.
Yeah.
Fantastic. One of the best things that came out last year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just recently, just last year, just in 2022, finally bought an actual OG copy of Derek and the Dominoes' Layla.
Oh, nice.
On vinyl. I had never had one. Every time I'd seen one, they were like $60 Canadian. I'm like, get the hell out of here with that bullshit. And then finally I found a copy for $35 that was in really nice shape at my local shop, and I waved $30 cash under Jerry's nose, and he said, yeah, okay, I'll take 30 cash. No tax, boom. So that was a great deal, and it was in really, really nice shape. So it was missing the original inner sleeves. That was the only thing. So I think that's why it was a little bit more reasonably priced.
Right.
If you like the guitar, how can you not have that album in your collection?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly.
It's not a dead song on that album, man. That thing just, I'm like in high school, and everybody's listening to 80s music, and I'm listening to Layla and Blind Faith and John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. Like, what are you listening to? I'm like, this. What are you listening to? Flock of Seagulls? What's that?
Yeah. That's how I was when I was a teenager in the 80s. Like, sure, I loved, like Ozzy Osbourne and Iron Maiden and AC/DC and Aerosmith and, and great Canadian bands that would come up in the 80s too, like Honeymoon Suite and Loverboy. And I loved all that. And the stuff my friends were buying, I was buying that stuff too, Quiet Riot and whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I was also going to the record store. We had one record store in the little town I grew up in the 80s here in Alberta. And I'd go there, and I'd also buy Stevie Ray Vaughan and Muddy Waters. My friends would make fun of me.
Yeah.
What the hell are you listening to that shit for? Or that's old music or whatever. And I'm like, come on, man, listen to this Stevie Ray Vaughan guy play that guitar.
Yeah.
And then imagine that not only is he playing like that, but this some bitch is singing like that too.
Yeah.
He was a good singer.
Yeah, like, come on, man. Like, you can't. Like, if you listen to, I don't know, my friends were like, oh, we love Jimi Hendrix. And I'm like, great. If you love Jimi Hendrix, or if you like Jimmy Page from Zeppelin, then, why aren't you listening to this guy?
Right.
Why aren't you listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan?
Goes right into play, yeah.
So, I was kind of that odd duck in the mid-'80s as a teenager, too, that, I'm walking around with my, I don't know, Twisted Sister record, but then I've also got like a Furry Lewis record.
Yeah.
It's like, who the hell is Furry Lewis?
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
Yeah, I think I have a Richard Marx somewhere. Yeah.
Why not?
And speaking of the Layla album,
until I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Layla album and Tedeschi Trucks, they also put out an album live at Locken, doing the Layla album in its entirety live. I don't know if you guys got that, but
I heard of that. I didn't.
It's so good.
Great job.
You can't buy it all, right? Unfortunately, it's just
fantastic.
impossible.
Oh, you did?
I don't think I've actually even heard it or even sampled it.
Marcus King is another current artist that's getting a lot of love these days.
Yeah.
Blues.
Yeah, Marcus King.
Yeah.
Samantha Fish. Yeah, Beth Hart.
There's Peter Green. Yeah.
Peter Green was tremendous. And I gotta confess a little something here. For a while, I was one of those uppity, snooty blues cats, especially in my 20s and early 30s, where if you weren't of a certain complexion, we'll just say that you weren't authentic to me. So back in the day, I wouldn't have considered Stevie Ray Vaughan as a true blues artist. I
Yeah.
would have considered him as a white blues guy. But
Yeah.
then, and not only am I a blues music collector, but I've also done blues research, and I've written articles for online magazines over the years to do with blues. And I'm working on a novel or a book about blues as well. And the more I kind of dove into the blues as a genre and going back to its history, you realize that, again, like we were talking about earlier, it was the record companies that made these arbitrary lines in the sand about this is race music or blues, and this is jazz, and this is hillbilly music. Because in the 20s and 30s, there were blacks, whites, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, all recording blues. And a lot of the blues artists or blues bands in the 20s and 30s, even if they weren't recording regularly, they were performing regularly. And not only did they have to know how to play a huge repertoire of blues songs, but they also just had to know how to play the pop tunes of the day, or Tin Pan Alley Torch love songs of the day, whatever was popular. Because if they're playing at some county park or town square in some picnic where there was a bunch of people, you'd have white listeners, black listeners, mixed race listeners, and people would walk up and request songs from these, let's say, jug bands or these early blues ensembles, like, let's say, the Mississippi Sheiks. So they had to be able to play not only a blues standard like Sitting on Top of the World, but also to be able to play, just some popular tune of the day that was a hit on the radio in the 30s. So the audience, as well as the artists, whether they were black, white, or otherwise, or a mix of both, or 3 or 4 different races or whatever, they were all playing the same style of music. There was white coal miners up in the hill country that were playing blues music in the 20s, just like there was guys down on the plantations picking cotton playing blues music.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the late 20s, early 30s that the record label said, okay, here's a divide, right?
Yeah.
There were some white artists that recorded, and they sued the record companies because the record companies released their white recordings under the race records. The artists got pissed because they're like, that's a smaller audience or a smaller market. Like, we're white guys, we're releasing to a white listening audience, which is 10 times the listening audience of the African American at the time. So we're missing out on a lot of royalties and cash. So they sued the record label.
Wow. Were the white
Carlisle Brothers, I think, is who it was back in the 20s or 30s.
Was it similar with in rock and roll with in the 50s? There was all the Little Richard and all the black guys who were played on black radio and didn't cross over to white radio. And then you had Elvis and Pat Boone and all those guys taking advantage of them. And was it the blues thing the same thing? Were they all kind of stealing the?
If it was in the 50s, if you were black, if the song sounded exactly the same, right? Like, let's say, all the stuff that Jerry Lee Lewis was doing, right? If you were black, that was considered rhythm and blues.
Yeah. And
if you were white, it was considered rock and roll. Rhythm and blues came out of jump blues, which came out of the barrel house, more, again, up-tempo type of playing, where a lot of times the piano was really in the forefront and provided medleys, but also the sort of the percussive sound or the driving sound of sort of jump blues or early R&B. And I'll think of ensembles like, what's his name? Louis Jordan, that type of stuff, right? That's basically early rock and roll. Yeah. But because they were of a certain complexion, that's rhythm and blues. But if they were white playing the exact same songs, that's rock and roll. Or even pre-rock and roll, that's hillbilly. But essentially it was the same thing, because as mentioned earlier, rock and roll was born out of the blues, right?
Yeah.
Blues had a baby and they named it rock and roll, essentially, right? So, because when it's all boiled down to it, blues is a folk music. It's a style of folk music. And everybody was singing it, whether it was some guy on a plantation on his front porch after a long day, or whether it was some coal miners from Virginia. They were playing very similar style of music. Yeah. You had a lot of migrating workers that at different times of the year would go to different states in the U.S. They'd work on sugarcane farms for so many months, then they'd go to cotton plantations for so many months, then they'd go to a tobacco plantation for a few months. So there was this cross-pollination of different regional styles that had helped sort of cement what we call the blues today. And not everybody was black. A lot of them were white. A lot of them were mixed race. Like Charlie Patton was of mixed race. Half the Mississippi Sheiks were all related, all cousins and brothers, and they were mixed. They were mixed white, black, and Cherokee. Charlie Patton was mixed black, white, Cherokee. Chuck Berry's part Cherokee.
I didn't know that about Chuck Berry.
Jerry Roll Morton was part Cherokee. Yeah.
That's crazy. Hey Sam, if you want to join us, I'll put an invite up.
I got to jump off. Actually, I got some stuff I got to do, but it was nice joining everyone briefly.
It's nice chatting with you. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Thanks,
man.
Rob, for coming on.
No problem. I'll see you, Glenn.
We're not going to be on much longer anyway. We'll see you on Tuesday for
See you on
sure.
Tuesday.
Head out, Rob. Yeah,
run.
thanks for joining my one earlier. I appreciate it.
Take
problem,
care, buddy.
Catch you again soon. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Oh, that's it. Hey, Glenn, glad to see you got the Grateful Dead set. Yeah, I love it. It's fantastic. The sound quality is great, and I love all the set lists. And yeah, I'm really
you're a big Deadhead, aren't you, Glenn?
yeah.
But he hates Zappa. You can tell he hates Zappa.
Who do you think's a bigger Deadhead, Glenn? You, Rod the Happy Hippie, or there's just so many.
Rod the Happy Hippie looks more like a Deadhead than I do.
He does, yeah. That guy's great, man. I like
Here's the box set.
That's cool. Yeah, that's nice.
They do such beautiful box sets.
I know you almost buy it just for the artwork, and that's it.
Yeah, it's pieces of art that you just put up.
Yeah.
When you're finished listening. 17 CDs.
And who do you have in the picture behind you, Glenn? Back there on the looks like they're in concert.
Who's that? Me? Right
behind
there?
You, yeah, on the wall.
Oh, right. That to my that way.
The black and white one. It looks like somebody in concert. Not the Dead one, but you have another one.
That is Lowest of the Low, Canadian band.
Okay.
My daughter used to work with them. She's a photographer, right? She used to work with them and took that picture of them on stage, and she made it for me.
What's funny?
My favorite Canadian band.
You got Zappa. You got Jerry. We got right behind you. You get up.
Jerry, and I got
the Beatles.
I got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, another huge Deadhead is Randy Weaver.
Yeah, Randy's got a much bigger collection than me. He's got every major box set. Like some of these box sets.
He's got a beautiful Dead.
He's got like the Europe 72 suitcase thing that's worth about $3,000 now or something. That's like insane.
Oh wow.
I don't have any Dead, which is kind of weird because I like the Dead, and again, there's a lot of blues influence, especially in their early years. You know, much like early Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, the early stuff you'd probably like Fillmore 69 or any of those ones. Yeah, that's just, even the Jerry Garcia band. Some of that stuff is great.
Yeah, and I know he's sat in with a lot of blues artists when they've been let's say they've released a live album, they were touring, and you know he's been sort of a guest appearance on whatever city and some tour, and you know he sits in with them for a couple songs, and it ends up on the live album. He's
great set live at the Keystone. Jerry Garcia and who's the keyboard player? I can't remember. It's you'd love it. It's all blues and R&B stuff. Really good.
Is it a blues keyboard player?
Yeah, he was actually more known for being like a soundtrack kind of guy. He made a living doing movie soundtracks and stuff.
What was the album?
How did I miss this?
I'm gonna have to change my channel name because you guys are stumping the blues guy like crazy here.
Did they my gateway to the Dead, because I couldn't get into it for years, but I finally listened to American Beauty and then the self-titled Dead album.
Okay.
Those got me right in. I don't know why I couldn't get into them. I don't know if it's because there's the singing style or what it was, but these are more straightforward songs. So
I think I had this misconception about the Grateful Dead that they were really psychedelic. Yeah. And at the time, I've gotten a lot more into psych in the last few years, especially since joining the vinyl community online.
Right.
But I wasn't really that familiar with psych. And again, I had this sort of false preconceived notion that all psych music was like this LSD infused crazy weirdo music,
Right.
which obviously is not the case. There's, acoustic folky psych and
Yeah.
everything in between, right? So I
Well,
had this misconception that the Dead was just very psych and weird,
yeah, they never
and
had.
obviously not true at all.
No, and there was stuff I couldn't get into, but once I listened to, especially American Beauty, I started with that, and I was like, this is a really good album. And then the Grateful Dead one that came out like the year before, the year after, right there, it's good songwriting.
I remember I can't remember if it was the late 80s or early 90s. A couple of my friends and I were really into that Grateful Dead album. I don't even know the title of the album, but it had the song Touch of Grey on it.
Yeah, In the Dark.
Fantastic song.
Yeah,
and
it's great. That's a great record.
We played that. I think it was on cassette at the time, maybe CD, but we played the hell out of that thing, man.
I like Touch of Grey.
Anytime the three of us were just going on a road trip or going into the city to whatever, go to a movie or go play pool or whatever, we pop that in and just loved it. Yeah.
That's a good traveling road song, that Touch of Grey.
Yeah. It's a good sort of road song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the CD set I got, but you can just buy single CDs of this. It's Merle Sanders.
I'm not
and
familiar.
Jerry Garcia, the Keystone recordings.
Merle Sanders either.
From 1973. Cool, they're all live recordings, but look at the set list. Like, where the heck did I go? They do High Heel Sneakers. The Harder They Come, the Jimmy Cliff song.
Oh, okay.
It Takes a Train to Laugh. It Takes a Lot to Cry, or whatever the Dylan song.
Yeah.
My Funny Valentine, Mystery Train.
Oh,
that's All Right, Mama.
Mystery Train, yeah.
Honey,
nice,
Honey.
Little Junior Parker track.
How Sweet It Is. Someday Baby. Yeah, they do. It's real bluesy. Jerry Garcia and Merle Saunders.
Train I Ride.
Yeah,
great Mystery Train.
That cover looks familiar. I think I've seen that on vinyl before.
Yeah. It's. I think it is out on vinyl. Yeah. That's really how I got into the Dead. I wasn't really a huge Dead fan. I was a huge Jerry Garcia fan. And I loved his solo stuff. And I listened to more of that before I was really huge into the Dead stuff.
It's funny how that can happen, right? Like I can remember my friends asking me sort of in my 20s that, like as a teenager, how did you get into the blues? I said, well, there's a couple of things. Like my parents listened to some stuff that you could consider soul and blues, like Aretha, Ray Charles. My dad liked and still does like Howlin' Wolf. And then, Clapton and all that stuff sort of in the 70s as well, right? But it was Zeppelin. I mean, as a teenager, I loved Zeppelin. My parents and aunts and uncles and older cousins turned me on to Zeppelin. So as a teenager, I started buying the early Zeppelin albums. And then, like I think In Through the Outdoor was the last one that was released as a new album when I was a teenager. What was that, 83 or 84 maybe or something? So I remember buying that new as a new release. But then as they started re-releasing Zeppelin albums, they started giving credit to Willie Dixon for some of the songs that he had written that they had covered or used as inspiration for their first 2 or 3 albums. So I'm like, who's this W. Dixon guy that keeps showing up on all of these credits now on these Zeppelin albums? Like, who the hell is this W. Dixon guy? His name shows up like 8 times between 3 albums or whatever. So I did some looking into it, and I found out it's this guy named Willie Dixon from Chess Records. So I'm like, okay. So I started looking at him, and that's when I started stumbling on Muddy Waters, Sonny Boy Williamson, like all those Chess cats, right?
Yeah.
So then that for me, that's kind of
opened the
when
door.
my parents helped me dip my toe in the waters. Willie Dixon through Led Zeppelin was really what made me dive right into the deep end of the pool, so to speak.
Yeah, it's
funny how you can get there from different ways, right? Like,
well, I think the British invasion, like I was 11, 12 years old, and the Stones come out and they put out their albums, and I'm listening to these songs that they're doing, and they're covering blues songs, and I think they're Rolling Stones songs. I don't know their blues songs.
Yeah.
It's Rolling Stones music to me. It took me a couple of years to figure out that no, they're covering Howlin' Wolf and covering all these guys.
Yeah, they're covering Muddy and Robert.
Yeah, and then you start going, oh, I got to check this stuff out.
Yeah. Those, I mean, thank God that in the 50s and early 60s, guys like J.B. Lenoir and Muddy Waters and Big Bill Broonzy and Sonny Boy Williamson were going over to Europe and touring.
Yeah.
not only the UK, but Germany and Holland and France. And
well, they got
it's sort of that combined with the Dixieland jazz revival of England in the late 40s, early 50s, just after the war, really helped to push the blues and jazz to some extent in Europe, especially in the UK. Yeah. And then those guys, the guys that eventually become the Paul McCartneys and the John Mayalls and these cats sort of reinterpret it and then bring it back to the US, right?
And not only that, those guys would go over to Europe and play in England or go to London and play, and they wouldn't take a band with them. They'd go by themselves and pick up a band.
Yeah.
So then you get an album like Sonny Boy Williamson with the Yardbirds.
Yes. Yeah, which I have, which is great. Yeah.
Too. Yeah, I like that one with the London sessions with Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah. So those guys got quite an education over there firsthand.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times it was a group of fans, especially in Big Bill Brunsey and J.B. Lenoir's case, where it was fans that really loved the music, so they would all pool their money together to rent a venue for him to play, pay for his return flight to fly them over so that he could do 2 nights at some shitty Liverpool club somewhere. And then the artist would actually stay at one of these people's homes. Wow. He'd stay in their guest bedroom. They'd cook him his meals for him, and he would sit at their dinner table.
That's crazy.
So they would pay to have J.B. Lenoir or Big Bill come over. They'd stay at their house, perform for a weekend at some place, and then they'd fly back.
It's like your live stream you did there, Glenn, with who would you invite to dinner to come play right there for you in the living room?
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
I picked Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
My guys.
Oh my God. Can you imagine that guy and the fingers and
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, he's at one point he was my second favorite overall blues artist after Muddy Waters, but I've since flipped in the last 10 years. I've gained a little bit of a greater appreciation for Howlin' Wolf's style and also his overall contributions to the genre, but also just in doing research over years and years and years and reading every bloody book I can, like all the blues books behind me there. Reading everything I can with blues in the title and all these autobiographies. Howlin' Wolf is really unique and really, really influential. So now it's flipped, and he's my number one overall bluesman.
Yeah, I agree.
What's your favorite blues book on the blues? Do you have like a general book that you think is like, if you would tell somebody if they want to learn about the blues, what book they would read?
There's one
about individual artists, like a general kind of a.
There's one called Deep Blues by Robert Palmer, not the singer Robert Palmer, the blues researcher Robert Palmer. He does a lot of liner notes on blues albums and stuff. That one's excellent. Anything by him is very great.
I've read a few of the individual biographies, like I read one on Muddy Waters. It was fantastic. I can't remember what it was.
The Buddy Guy autobiography is very good and very funny. Very funny. It's called When I Left Home. I have it back there. It's very, very good. Barrel House Blues is another very good one. Barrel House Blues.
Yeah, I'll bet you Buddy's got a good story to tell.
Yeah, it's funny as hell too. Actually, he talks about when he first met Muddy Waters. He thought he was going to get mugged because he had just been in Chicago for like 3 days, right? And he was basically starving to death. He was staying at a friend's place and he didn't have any work. And he got invited to like a blues sort of a head cutting contest at some blues club in the south side of Chicago. And he destroyed everybody. He was up against Magic Sam and Otis Rush, I believe it was. And he just wiped the floor with them. And somebody who was in the club knew Muddy Waters. And Muddy Waters apparently only lived like 5 or 6 blocks away. So he called Muddy on the blower and said, "You got to get down here and see this young kid, Buddy Guy."
Yeah.
So Muddy came up, was sitting in his car outside and sent somebody into the club to go and fetch Buddy. But because Buddy was still, fresh-faced kid from the South, right, from Lettsworth, Louisiana, his accent was different. And he didn't quite get the Chicago, Illinois accent. So somebody said, "Oh, the mud is outside," because that's what they called Muddy, the mud, right? And Buddy misunderstood and thought that they were telling him, if you go outside, you're going to get mugged. So he didn't want to go outside, and they're trying to force him outside. He's like, "I don't want to go outside." And then he realized, oh, it's the mud. And there's Muddy Waters sitting in the car and invites him in. And it's a great story. The way that Buddy writes it in the book, the way he tells it is really funny. Really,
That's
really
cool.
good. Yeah. The whole book's like that. Interesting, funny, entertaining, and very, very informative. Yeah.
But he's got such a great personality.
He's
Yeah.
a sweetheart.
Yeah.
I love that man. I've had the
Yeah.
luxury of seeing him 5 times. I've met him twice. He's
Yeah.
a beautiful, sweet man. There's definitely truth to that Southern hospitality.
Mm.
He's just, he's a great guy. Very smart, very funny,
Yeah.
kind of soft spoken. But when he's on stage, man, he's the most
Oh, yeah.
macho dude out there.
Yeah, and he lets the F word fly.
Yeah, he's super bad, super macho,
yeah.
like uber macho, right?
Yeah.
But
I saw him.
when
I
you're
saw him in
talking to him-
Orlando. I saw him in Orlando, Florida, earlier last year.
yeah, I think I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah, with John Hyatt, double bill.
But when you
John
talk
Hyatt,
to him,
funny
he's
guy.
very humble and he's very kind and he's funny. He's a funny son of a bitch. He's funny
Yeah.
as hell.
Yeah, I got to see him a few times. I probably a half a dozen times on Buddy.
Really, half a dozen? Wow, more than
I
me.
would think
Good for
so.
you. Yeah, but you saw him way back in the day.
I saw him
too,
at a
like the
club,
60s, right?
Colonial on Young Street. Yeah, small club.
Didn't you see the Festival Express
Saw
too?
Festival Express. Saw him there. Saw him at a blues folk festival I worked at in Toronto. Him and Junior Wells together.
Oh,
Oh,
greatest
wow.
blues duo
And then
of
I
all
saw him
time,
again
in
at
my
America
opinion.
was a folk festival in the '90s, and then saw him again last year. So yeah, I'm 5 or 6 times in.
Yeah, I saw him in the 90s. I saw him in the 2000. And I saw him in the 20 teens.
Yeah. He still plays. I mean,
And
you
then
can tell he hasn't got the licks he
had.
had, when he was in his prime, but he still plays good enough.
I mean, it happens, right? The guy's in his 80s.
Yeah,
I mean, look
he's
at BB
86
King, right?
years old or something.
Like BB King at the height
Yeah.
of his powers in the late. Yes.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah,
this
that's
one.
a good. That's a good one.
And there's another one they did too, where they're like babies in a crib or a.
Yeah, Buddy and the Juniors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
is
a
a good
good one.
album too. Yeah, I haven't found that yet.
Yeah, I have a copy of that. They reissued that on was it like Blue Thumb, I think is the label. It's their logo is a blue thumbprint.
Okay.
I got it down here actually. Give me a second.
Yeah, this one's cool because I think they were on tour or something, and they just stopped by. And
Alone and acoustic.
yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
very good. Yeah, and it's just it's pretty raw. It's not a lot to it. Harmonicas going on there.
Another good one is this one, by the way. It's Drinking TNT, Smoking Dynamite. It's Buddy
Oh,
Guy and
wow.
Junior Wells at
I haven't seen that.
the Montreal Jazz Festival, 1974. They got Bill Wyman sitting in with them.
Mm.
Wow,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, Bill Wyman
The other good one
plays
is,
down on a nice bass, man.
of course. John, do you have the Folks Muddy Waters
There it is,
folk
John.
singer album?
I do. Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
Because there's a Buddy Guy one that's similar called Blues Singer.
Mm.
Yeah,
that album?
Buddy Guy blues singer. Yeah,
That's a great freaking record.
yeah, that's his homage to Muddy Waters, folk singer.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
Buddy played on that album with Muddy and Willie Dixon.
Yeah, I haven't even opened it yet.
Oh, you got the
Yeah,
you got the audiophile edition.
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful album.
I was like, I hadn't heard the album before. I heard it was coming out. I streamed it just real quick, and just 2 notes in, I'm like, ran to the record store, like, give it to me.
Even the just a OG pressing on regular vinyl, whatever you want to call it, sounds fantastic.
Oh, I'm
That's
sure.
one of the best recorded albums ever.
That's to me, I think that's probably Muddy's, if not his best album, in my opinion. Probably, definitely in the top 3.
And when you're
Of-
listening
of
to that in the
Mud.
stereo and you're sitting down, you can hear this. The 3 musicians who are basically on that are so well separated on that. On the
Whoever mic'd up
recording.
that studio, they knew what they
Oh.
were doing, man.
It's the
Yeah.
sweetest record ever made.
You can hear Muddy's bottleneck, a piece of
Yeah.
metal pipe. You can hear it going tuck, 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 up and down the fretboard as he's
Yeah,
playing.
it sounds like you're in the room with them.
Yeah.
If you close your eyes, you swear they're sitting in your room.
You
Yeah,
feel like you're wiping spit off your face
Yeah.
because you're so close to them singing into the mic.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely. I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
if I have another recording like that does that.
Yeah, there's a
that's-
Muddy one that came out on Record Store Day. And he does some talking in between the songs, and it's very much like that. It's like, I don't know if it's as high quality as this one, but yeah, you feel like you're in the room, like you close your eyes and they're just bullshitting, and they're just playing, and all of a sudden he goes into a song. It's just a really nice
You gotta
album.
crank that open, buddy.
Yeah.
You need to open that one.
Yeah,
Play
you
it.
can't leave that. You can't
I
leave
know.
that
I'm like,
that.
I want to
That's
do a
sin.
video on it, but now I'm
That's
like,
a sin.
I got to open this damn thing.
You
up.
got to hear it. I
Yeah.
got to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay.
But see, that's the thing with Chess, though, right? Is they were able to capture lightning in a bottle so many times because you had the Chess brothers, right? Leonard and his brother. not quite as important. Okay, I've drawn a blank.
Blues guy stumping himself now.
Yeah, Leonard and not Marshall. That was Leonard's son. But anyway, but also Willie Dixon, right? Like Willie Dixon basically was the first black record producer, manager, talent scout, behind the mixing board guy, songwriter guy. And so he was really instrumental in creating that chess sound that became sort of their signature sound. And they didn't skimp on their equipment. They had top of the line equipment back in the day, especially at 2112 Michigan Avenue, where they had their recording studios and their press plant and their shipping department all in one building. So the quality control was very tight. And Leonard was very fussy about the blues because Leonard actually loved the blues, like personally. And he and Muddy became not only sort of record executive and artist roster relationship, but also friends. They became personal friends, right? So yeah, Chess, like that Muddy Waters album, right? That Muddy Waters Folk Singer, that's one of those lightning in a bottle captured things that is just very, very special, you know.
And the other good album that's that too, there's one with Fleetwood Mac when they went to Chess and played with all those guys, Otis Spann and
what was that
Buddy
called?
Guy. I've got it. It's called Blues Jam in Chicago. I think
that's the one. Blues Jam. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a great album too.
Peter Green, right?
Yeah.
Peter Green.
Playing at Chess, the original Fleetwood Mac blues band. Yeah.
I'll have to crank open that one and then drink a bottle of the Bob Dylan Heaven's Door.
I've got a full bottle of that sitting in the cupboard, and I quit drinking.
Oh man, this is good. This is the double.
It's really good.
I like it. I had the rye also, and I'm like,
I have the rye.
Yeah, the rye is good. And I just tried this, and it's smooth. So I think that's what I'm going to do tonight.
That's too expensive. That's an $80 bottle of booze.
Oh yeah, here it's this is about $50 to $60.
No, I mean up down there, I think it was 80. The rye.
Oh no, it wasn't that much. Well, it was on sale too when I got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was
I got a $100 bottle of whiskey sitting in the cupboard, not unopened.
Oh,
geez, when I listen to blues, I just I just drink like homebrew corn liquor. That's
there you go.
From my dad. I'm not even joking. From my daddy's still. I'm not joking.
Really, that's awesome.
My dad makes hooch, but he also makes homemade wine too. So that
it's nice and clear.
Legit. Well, there we go.
It looks like a jar of water almost. It's like clear.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's like, ooh, I wonder. That's got to be strong.
It's strong. Yeah. You can't drink too much of it.
I got to get some people.
You go blind, literally.
Comments.
Yeah, I'm sure.
DJ got the Beatles mono box set. That's a grail item. I'm telling you. I wonder how much did you pay for it? I got to know. Hello,
Peru El McSalvador says you guys should listen to some 1930s blues like Gallus Pole. Yeah,
the blues. I listen to B.B. King. Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that.
Led Zeppelin covered that track, Gallus Pole. Yeah, that's a Leadbelly tune. Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Yeah, we were talking about her earlier. Grandmother of rock and roll.
Great musician.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of Robert Cray and Eric Bibb? I'm not a big Robert Cray guy. I found he's got this kind of city style that's kind of I find him kind of soulless for some reason.
Really? I find the opposite. I find Robert Cray's voice is very honey-soaked and soulful.
Yes.
He's not gruff like Charlie Patton or The Wolf. He's a lot softer in his vocal delivery.
It's almost crooner type or something.
He's got a great guitar playing style. He's got a really nice touch on the guitar.
Wow, yeah.
And he's one of those guys that helped to keep blues alive through the 80s.
Oh, absolutely.
There wasn't a lot of blues coming up there.
Yeah.
It was Robert Cray. It was Stevie Ray Vaughan. It was Buddy Guy to some extent. And then, of course, a lot of the British blues guys were still rolling with the blues in the 80s. But Robert Cray was one of those African-American blues artists that were still performing blues. Maybe some of it was more soul blues, of course, but not that down-home stuff, of course. It's not his style. But, yeah, I like Robert Cray. Eric Bibb, I've heard of him. I'm familiar with his stuff, but I don't have anything. I'm not a huge Eric Bibb fan. Not that he's not good.
I got to check him out. I'm not sure.
I can't own everybody, right? It's impossible to buy one of everything.
Hooker and Heat. Well, Canned Heat was a great blues band and
great boogie woogie band. Love Canned Heat. One of my favorites.
Yeah, I have them with some other artists.
Yeah, John Lee Hooker's a good starting point for the blues. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
John Lee's unique because he came from Mississippi, but he didn't go up to Chicago. He went to Detroit. Well, first, initially, I think he went to St. Louis, and then he eventually made his way up to Detroit. So his sound, while rooted in the Mississippi Delta blues, like the Chicago blues is got a little bit of a different sound. It's a little bit more percussive, more industrial sounding, not industrial like industrial genre of music.
Yeah,
like Nine Inch Nails, but it's got that 1940s, 1950s Detroit auto factory sound, kind of mechanized, clanging, banging type of percussive sound to it.
And you know his voice. As soon as you hear his voice, you know who it is.
Yeah, there's hardly anybody that sounds like John Lee.
Right.
There was a lot of clubs in Detroit in those days, jazz and blues clubs.
Yeah. Detroit was, we think of Detroit today as kind of this terribly neglected city with a lot of rundown sections of town. But, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, Detroit was like this beautiful golden city and the city of opportunity. There was a lot of work, great economy, great people, great neighborhoods. Everything Detroit was, and parts of Detroit still are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And it was a happening joint up there in Detroit.
Well, that's where a lot of those Motown artists kind of got their, like, especially the session musicians, the Funk Brothers and all that. Most of those guys came from playing in those clubs. James Anderson, the bass player, and
absolutely. Motown USA, Detroit. Yeah, absolutely.
You guys should listen to some 30s blues like Gallus Pole.
That's the Leadbelly track that.
Oh God, he's trying to say Gallows Pole.
Gallows Pole, yeah.
But I think Leadbelly's pronounced it Gallus Pole. It's that sort of southern.
Okay.
Gallus Pole, yeah.
Cool.
Now, baby, would you bring me silver? Baby, did you bring me gold? Baby, tell me what you brought me to give to the gallows pole. Yeah. That's Leadbelly, man.
That's the if I had to pick one thing that got me interested in a banjo, it was Zeppelin's version of Gallows Pole, and in the middle of it, there's a banjo part. It's really not overwhelming. It's just in the background, and that's the first time I went, wow, that sounds cool.
Who's playing banjo on that? Do you know?
I don't know. But that's the first time
I wonder if that's Jimmy Page or if they brought in somebody for
I don't know.
I'll have to check.
It just adds to that song so much in that track. Sister Rosetta Thorpe, we talked about her earlier.
Yeah. It's talking about Cotton Eye Joe too. Yeah, that's.
Have you heard the original Black Betty? We got ourselves a blues guy in the house here.
Yeah, Black Betty. It's not a Leadbelly original, but Leadbelly recorded that 3 times.
It's not old Black Betty, Bam a Lamb.
Yeah, it's the Ram Jam covered it, but it's Leadbelly records it, and it's like Son House's John the Revelator, where he's just singing and clapping.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like that with Leadbelly. It's like, hey, Black Betty, Ram a Lamb.
Oh, wow.
In fact, an earlier recording is a Chain Gang recording of that, taken, I think, from Louisiana. Wow. And it's a Chain Gang singing that song while they're working on a chain gang.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's a field recording.
They're saying Jimmy Page played the banjo on that.
Ah, wow. See, Jimmy Page, man. Incredible. Guitar, mandolin, banjo, friggin' what the hell else could that guy play? Anything with a string on it.
JLH CD for $1 at charity store. Do you know what the acronym means there? JLH?
John Lee Hooker.
John Lee Hooker.
John Lee Hooker, duh. I'm having a senior's moment.
We're here to help, Glenn. We're here to help.
Thank you. I'm old.
Yeah, I always recommend Leadbelly to people if they want to get into sort of acoustic, for lack of a better term, acoustic, more folky blues. But there's Leadbelly put a lot of protests, so would later become sort of the 50s and 60s sort of hippie movement protest songs. He did a lot of that in the 30s and 40s, right? And Leadbelly, 12-string guitar guru, amazing on the 12-string guitar, very powerful voice. And Leadbelly was another one. He didn't even consider himself a blues artist. He considered himself, in his words, a songster, because he didn't just play blues. He played, again, pop tunes. He released albums that were children's songs. He would record ring songs, work songs, blues songs, ballads. Very gifted. He had something like over 200 songs memorized. And he was also one of those guys that would use what they called floating verses. He could make up songs on the spot as he went along by picking sort of pre-made ready, what they called floating verses that he would memorize. And he could just sort of pick them out of his brain and jigsaw puzzle them together to make a song as he went along.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. A lot of cats did that back in the day.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard, the first time I heard "Where Did You Sleep Last Night," it was Nirvana. Then I checked out the Lead Belly, and that line in there where they find the guy's head on the seat or whatever. I was like, what?
Creepy stuff. The way Lead Belly sings it is
Yeah,
creepy.
he's just like, yep, found a hit. I'm like, what?
Yeah, there's one vocal aside where he's singing, and it's between, I think, the second and the third verse, and he says. So he says in a kind of a sinister, almost ominous tone in his voice, he says, "Sing for me now." But
okay.
It sounds like he's basically he's about to put his hands around her throat, because the song is he's suspecting that his woman's messing around on him behind his back, right? Where'd you sleep last night, right? So when he's "Sing for me now," and it sounds like he's about ready to kill her because he's so mad he found.
Oh man, that could be my third revision or awakening of that song, to hear that, because I never thought about that before.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
Yeah, and it is creepy now that you say it. Yeah,
but Lead Belly, going back to Creedence covered a lot of Lead Belly tracks. Like Midnight Special and like 3 or 4 at least.
When I was a little bitty baby, my mama used to rock me in the. They did that song too. Cotton Fields Back Home. I don't know if that was Lead Belly or not.
Good Night Irene, which is Lead Belly.
Irene. Yeah.
Midnight Special was Lead Belly. Yeah, they covered a lot of Lead Belly tunes. Lead Belly was a genius.
Hey guys, I hate to end this stimulating.
This is great
chat, but it was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And sorry, I dominated the whole conversation.
It was awesome. I learned a lot, Chris. I can talk to you all day long, buddy.
Oh yeah,
amazing.
I want to start doing live streams again. I haven't done live streams in a long time. I used to at least once a month. A lot of them. I used to do at least once a month a real.
Anytime you need a partner in crime, give me a shout. I love doing this with you. It's great.
Well, the problem was YouTube kept dinging me because I play blues songs.
You can't play anything. It's just better. Yeah.
So I was thinking of resurrecting for the new year the Real Blues Clues live streams, but have it something like this format where 2, 3, 4, 5 people, just invite people in and we just sit and talk about blues. Maybe show some blues albums, but really just natural progression of the conversation like it's been here. Where you talk about Clapton, Lead Belly, Creedence. All that stuff, and it's it's a really interesting conversation.
You gotta keep it small like this too, I think, because I was just on Rachel's before this, and I just felt like, where do I fit in? It's fun, but you're like, ooh, I don't want to interrupt. Here we can kind of feel each other out a little bit more. So. Yeah. I like her live streams. They're fun and entertaining, but it gets to be very overwhelming. Very often she's live streaming, and it's early in the day, at least for me here in Calgary, the mountain time. So it might be 8 or 9 local time here. So I'm just kind of getting ready for work and heading out the door to go to work a lot of times. So I'll have it on in the background, but I don't have time to even comment. And sometimes even just the chat, and what she calls the peanut gallery, gets overwhelming. So a lot of times I just have it and I'm just listening and I don't really participate because it gets to be a lot. Yeah. But they have fun over there. Those guys. It's fun. They have a good time over there. Yeah. So, it's more power to her over there. It's they have a great time.
Well,
she runs a fun show over there.
Yeah. Anybody who's watching, please, if you haven't, subscribe to Music Talk with John. Great channel. And of course, Blues.
I haven't, but I will.
Yeah. And I'm already on you. Yep. I had you already. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Great, guys. Okay. Well, have a great Saturday and we'll talk soon. Go Leafs, go.
Yep.
Go Habs.
Thank you.
Ole, 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 ole.
Okay, guys. Have a great one.
All right,
thanks a lot, Glenn. Take care, John.
Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Take care, everybody. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.